I'm thrilled to be able to call this man a friend. He is one of the best in the business, and the NFL and CBS Sports are bringing classic NFL on CBS games to CBS and CBS Sports Network leading up to the draft next week, and I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot of this man's voice, who we also heard this past weekend for a lot of the replays of great Masters moments. He is none other than Jim Nantz. How are you, Jim?
Hello, friend, and it's great to be with you, Rich. I'm getting excited about some of the programming that's coming up with the NFL draft and these NFL rewinds, and everybody, again, under the circumstances, we're doing just fine out here at our home in California, but it's great to have a chance to visit with you.
Right back at you, Jim, and I'll tell you what, man, I missed your voice. This is normally the time, late March, early April, we're hearing you talk about nets being cut down. We're hearing you talk about jackets getting slipped on. I wonder what you've been missing personally, Jim.
Yeah, it's one of those things you're constantly trying to balance about where you are in the present with your mind naturally wandering off to where you're supposed to be. So it's this constant time warp that is challenging for me. Constant reminders from people that, hey, tonight you were supposed to call the national championship game. Hey, today they were supposed to hit the opening tee shot at the Masters. You would have been there. Boy, do I miss it? Of course I do. But, those aren't my greatest concerns right now. As we've had over a month to get accustomed to this new way of life, I've just been grateful that I've had my family here. I've had all three of my kids with me for over a month. My in-laws are here, and we're safe and sheltering, and we, like everyone else, we can't wait to get things somewhat back to normal, eventually completely back to normal. And, I miss these sporting events, but I want that to be put in the proper perspective.
No doubt.
Where we are in the world and the people that have rallied, as Americans always do. The frontliners in this case, the healthcare workers, and everybody else who has really given not only their time but put their lives on the line to come in to try to help others. It's another great story of America coming together at a time of need and uniting as one.
No question. And obviously people who work on supply chains and supply lines and being out delivering packages or driving a bus or things that we take for granted so much. And that obviously includes sports. And when we get back to sports might actually help make everybody feel normal. And in the meantime, we hit the rewind button, as you point out, like this past weekend for the Masters. Did you catch any of the oldest of old schools of your broadcasts from back in the day? Did you catch any of those, Jim?
I did, and every time one of them would come on, ESPN and Golf Channel both were replaying old Masters telecast, and I'm now an old guy, so I've been around for so many of them, and what a blessing it's been to have 34 Masters broadcasts in the bank. But as they were replaying the likes of 1986 and Jack Nicklaus's historic six-screen jacket, I was flooded with people remarking that either they didn't know that I dated back that far, or, man, you look so young back then, meaning you look really old now. But, yes, I caught the 86 rebroadcast, of course, the 97 Win for the Ages by Tiger. I had never watched that again.
No way.
Rich, so I'd never seen the rebroadcast. I'd seen the clip when he puts out at 18.
Sure.
1,000 times over, but I had never watched the broadcast, so I enjoyed getting lost in that for a few hours.
Hey, Jim, I get, instead of the you look older, like what happened to your hair, I get a lot of that. And I'm stealing myself for the Last Dance documentary on Jordan that ESPN's going to no doubt have maybe some of my SportsCenter highlights from that Last Dance season. I'm getting ready, stealing myself for those texts and calls from people.
You have to take those as a badge of honor, though, that you were there.
Yes.
Your career spans that kind of history. At least that's the way I look at it. I mean, I still can't believe it. Almost when I looked at the 86 Masters rebroadcast, I was 26 years old at that time. And Frank Cherkinian, the legendary late producer and director for CBS, regarded as the founder of golf television, the fact that he entrusted me to be on his broadcast,
right,
Like I'm 60 now, and I don't get it. I don't know what he saw. I'm being serious here. How in the world do you take a guy that's not even 4 years graduated from college and put him on the 70th hole of the biggest golf event in the world? I mean, I can't explain it. Yeah, I was nervous that day, but I was like almost more nervous watching it at the age of 60 to hear, what might be leaving my lips back then.
I love that.
I wasn't for sure what I had said other than the bear has come out of hibernation. And I remember after I said that, after Nicklaus's pivotal putt on Sunday, that I was instantly just overcome with a lot of doubt and regret. I thought someone else had already said it in the broadcast. By the time you got to 16, there have already been announcer's position from the 10th hole on. So there's been a lot of commentary. There's been a lot of things said. So as soon as I said it, I thought, why did you just repeat something that has already been uttered on this broadcast? So I was beating myself up a little bit. So a little bit after the broadcast, I went over to apologize to Frank, to Mr. Tricinian. I was just trying to get back for the 87 match. I wanted to get the invite back. And I went over to, hat in hand, and said, I'm so sorry, Frank, that I re-laundered the line about the bear has come out of hibernation. He said, he had a big presence about him, even though he was a little short guy. He was like 5'5" with a booming voice, and he said, "Son, no one said it other than you. So you're going to be doing this next year. You might be doing this for a while now.
That's
Get
awesome.
the hell out of my office and shut up." So that was it.
Was Summerall in the tower? I mean, what was your relationship with him, Jim? What was it like?
Super strong with Pat. In fact, I'm so glad you brought up Pat. This is the way my mind works. I had no idea we were going to mention Pat.
Right.
Pat passed away, because I'll be thinking of him tomorrow when I wake up and I'll look at the calendar that it's April 16th. He died 7 years ago tomorrow.
Huh.
He died April 16th, 2013. I worked 10 years with Pat. Obviously, he was in the 18th tower for that 86 Masters. And I would go on and work golf as a regular member of Frank's broadcast team. And so I worked in 86, 7, 8, 9, 90, 91, 92, 93 with Pat. He did the 94 Masters and the West Coast Swing. So what's that? Maybe 8, 9 full years of, say, 18 to 20 golf tournaments a year. And that's a lot of time, not just on the air, but even better, being able to go out to dinner with Frank and Pat and Ken Venturi and that whole crew that I'd grown up watching as a kid, and now they're my colleagues. I'll tell you one quick story. Sure. I used to call him on the air Mr. Summerall. I was just that's just the way I was raised. I was a yes sir, no sir, Mr., Mrs. I didn't want to have the arrogance of thinking I could actually talk to him like we're equals, because I wasn't, and I'm still not. And so I originally, talking about my first year on the air, I just knee-jerk reaction was saying, let's go back to 18, Mr. Summerall. And finally, Frank called me in the office one day and again, just ripped me and said, "You got to quit calling him Mr. Summerall. You're making us all sound like a bunch of old fools. It's Pat." I said, "Yes, sir, Mr. Chickini," and I've got that.
Yes,
okay. But Pat was so kind and generous, and of course, after he left CBS to go to Fox, to go there with John Madden, he still, in so many ways, was a member of the CBS family. And I'm not taking anything away from some great years he had at Fox, but he was a CBS guy.
Sure.
And he would be around. And once he retired, he was around. When we would have the occasion to go into Dallas, let's say for the Byron Nelson golf tournament, we had occasions where we would get together for dinner, and a lot of times these were dinners to, let's pay tribute to Pat. Let's get our entire crew, all the production and technical team members, and I just love Pat Summerall. My gosh, I mean, I still can't believe that I got to just sit across from him at a table on dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of occasions, and just listen to him tell a story or listen to him order his dinner. You know, as only Pat could. I'll start with a salad and steak, medium rare. You know, I mean, just all those pauses. And it's really kind of, I just gave you a spin-off of a story that Pat used to say about Ray Scott.
Oh, of course.
I know you and maybe a good portion of our audience knows that Ray Scott was one of the legendary voices of the NFL back in the early days and the Packer days and Star, Dollar, Touchdown, Green Bay. Well, Pat worked as an analyst next to Ray Scott. So, listen, Pat was naturally inclined to speak the way that we knew him on the air. But I think there was such a heavy influence of working alongside Ray Scott with an economy of words and a minimalist approach to description for a visual medium. And he would talk about Ray Scott ordering breakfast, bacon, eggs, over easy. You know, and that was Pat.
I love it.
God love him.
Yeah, exactly. And his wife, Sherry, keeping his spirit alive with the Pat Summerall dinner every single
what Cheryl DeLeonardis does, and Sherry does with the Pat Summerall Award, with all the things for St. Jude's. And you have been, my gosh, God bless you, Rich, for what you've done for that cause. And for that dinner every year at the Super Bowl it's amazing. It's an amazing event.
Yep, and we've got Tony Dungy on in our final hour. He's won the Summerall Award every year. I'm honored to have taken that home. I've seen you at tons of them, and this folks at CBS that support it, Ken Agard, and so many people that support that still. It is just remarkable.
I was lucky enough to be the honoree. One of the years the Super Bowl was in Phoenix.
You too.
And we weren't broadcasting it that year, but we were broadcasting the Phoenix golf tournament on that same weekend. So anyway,
it's amazing.
It was like one of those "this is your life" moments. And I mean, I looked out in the audience, and I saw everybody from my roommates in college. They flew in. I mean, all my family was there. Andy Rooney was there from 60 Minutes. I mean, it was like crazy. NFL distinguished legendary names that were, again, there out of respect for Pat Summerall primarily. It was just awesome.
Jim Nantz here on the Rich Eisen Show. And again, there's going to be some great games, 2 a day on either CBS Sportsnet or CBS starting on Thursday with a couple of games that I think Ravens fans won't want to revisit, but the Chiefs and the Browns will. You've called so many of them. I do want to, however, call attention to the Patriots right now, though, because the conversation that we heard, interestingly enough, I didn't think I'd bring up a Howard Stern interview to you, Jim Nantz, but that's where Tom Brady spoke for 2 hours plus last week, saying that he thought that when asked by Howard when he was thinking that he wouldn't return to New England, he pegged a date of last summer. Did you get any indication when you and Tony would speak with him and or Belichick that something was not the same in the same, say, 19 years that you had those visits with him and Bill?
I really didn't, but we all knew that he had contractually put it in there, the clause where he was going to be able to have his pure freedom when the season was up. So all season long there was that heavy speculation, but did I get tipped off or did I get any sense that he had in his head that he was going to make a move at the end of the year? No, not at all. And that includes even, having the chance to call his last game in a Patriot uniform, the playoff game against Tennessee in the wild card round. But no, I didn't get that sense. I'll tell you, it's going to be really interesting. We usually talk on this night. I can't wait. There's certain things that right now you look forward to, that sports side of our lives, and that's why people are listening to you right now and every day. There's certain things that keep us interesting, get us fired up. The draft, obviously. Mm-hmm. But I've told you a number of years, guesting on that very night, the night of the schedule release is one of my favorite sporting events of the year. I love it. It's like the bracket release for the NCAA tournament.
Yes.
There's some mystery to it. The reveal, I'm into it. And maybe it's because it's just something it sets course on where my life might be going in certain places, and this is where we're going to travel to. But I love to see the disbursement of the games to all the networks and see how that plays out. But this year, my gosh, what Howard Katz and Kathy Young and that great team that have to sit there and come up with all these different models, and I'm just talking about under the heading of the season goes as scheduled.
Yep.
It will be interesting to see how they delegate the games in terms of how high profile do you put the Patriots. The Patriots have a road schedule this year. I don't have it in front of me, but I do know they've got Baltimore, Houston, and Kansas City on their schedule. I know they play at the Chargers. I know there's another game they play on the West Coast that's like there's just as
the Raiders.
Some years it's better than most. They play at the Raiders, and you start thinking, okay, do they put them in 4, let's say, primetime spots? Do they put them in addition as the primary 4:25 game on 4 or 5 occasions? How do they see that? How do they? It's more like how do they handicap it? Because that's kind of what it is, isn't it, Rich? I mean, aren't they kind of handicapping who they think the marquee teams are going to be?
Of course, and then you've got
that's what it is.
Of course, and then you've got obviously the Chiefs visiting Tampa, so you'd have the repeat of obviously so many great games of Brady and Mahomes, and then this year we're knocking on whatever this is wood loose site before I let you go, Jim. That the NFL season will go off, and we will see the Masters in November. Just to repeat, your plan would be to do the Masters that weekend in November at Augusta and figure out the rest. That would be your plan.
I don't know how they're going to do it. My thing I'm really looking forward to is just seeing how high profile is Tampa. What do they do with New England? We're
right.
The AFC Network. What are the teams? Everybody's going to want Mahomes as many times as they can get him. You're right. Our crossover games over here on the AFC side, I'm talking about the Bucs, Kansas City, and the Chargers play at Tampa. Do we get both of those games? Do we put them in a doubleheader window, or does the league put them in a doubleheader window? This is all just, try to figure out how it's going to be handicapped, and it's just an excitement for me that's building up to that release date, whenever that is. I know it's probably within a month, right?
Yep.
Before.
Well, the idea I think would be sometime in May, Jim, when we might have any idea of scheduling and stuff like that. And like I said, I can't believe that a Masters could be held in November in Augusta. That would be remarkable if that could be go off as planned.
If it happens, that means that the world's in a much better place.
Correct.
And, there are other events that are being squeezed into that real estate. Talking about the autumn months, it's going to be for those who make their living in programming. And if you're a sports fan, let's look at it through the lens of a sports fan. Just think of all the things that are going to happen at the confluence of, you mentioned it, the Masters. How about, the U.S. Open? There's a Ryder Cup. So there's that sport. All of those would be in the autumn months, with the Masters being last up in November. But you've got Grand Slam tennis events. You've got, hopefully, baseball playing. Of course, we've got college football in the NFL. It's just all of these things coming together to get a date down for 2020. I mean, let's just hope that's the biggest concern we have, that the world's in a far better place. We're more centered. The world is back on its axis. Sports are back competing. People have that diversion, that distraction, that form of escapism in their lives. But more than anything, let's just hope everybody's healthy and we're able to get people back working, and their lives are healthy and happy and back to the way we used to know it.
Here, Jim Nantz. Thanks for the call. I really could chat with you all the rest of this show, but I got Tony Dungy, and we can't keep Tony
I understand.
winning,
I love Coach.
Me too.
Please give him my best, and I love you. Thank you, Rich.
Right
You're
back at you. Love you too, Jim Nantz. You're the man.
The
best to you and your family. That's Jim Nantz. CBS Sports. Honestly, one of the greatest storytellers there is. Oh my gosh. I love my chats with him on this show. Just great. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.